Hi, Jodelle.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can.
So the other link, do I have to go into that one first?
Nope, you stay on this one. When you guys go to executive session, then you'll go to the other link.
Wait, okay, wait. So this link is the special board meeting link.
Yes.
Okay,
And then the other link is for when you guys go to executive session.
okay.
And then you'll come back to this meeting after executive session.
Okay. I'll probably get lost somewhere in the cyber world.
We'll find you.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Monty and Papa.
Who's that?
No.
Ronnie and Papa, sweet.
Mystery. Amber,
Hi, guys.
where's the iPhone?
Patrick Hallerhan.
Oh, hi, Pat. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't know who Monty and Papa was.
Yeah, I tried to change that once I realized that was what was going to come up, and I thought I did, but it's still there. So,
There's a story behind that?
well, I guess the story. Hang on, I got to get out of these earphones. Ah, there, that's better. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the question was asked when our granddaughter was born. Okay, what do you want to be called? And I wanted to be Papa, and my wife wanted to be Grammy. So that was the whole idea. And somehow our 2.5-year-old granddaughter is quite verbal, and when she first started talking, Grammy somehow became Monty. So that's
Nice.
that's the
That's
story.
cute. That's cute.
And I
Well,
love Monty. I mean, no, who else is named? What grandmother is named Monty?
Nobody that I know. Hi, Robert.
Rename. There we go. Okay.
Josh, I assume you're Massena Central? Yeah.
He doesn't have a camera or a mic, but he is.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 board members so far, right?
Mm-hmm. Pat, is anyone else coming in from CNS?
Yeah, Jim Francisconi should be coming on.
Okay.
I'm going to text him here in a second. Rob Gray's still out. He's going to be out for a little while. He's got some surgeries next year, or next month, or next week rather. My apologies, next week, and it's probably going to be a week or two after that before he's back.
Comes Jim. The others aren't hanging out in executive session land.
Well, that was part of the reason I tried to make sure that I understood clearly from Angela what was going on. Part of it was so I knew, and hopefully somebody might realize something that they might have had backwards.
Hi, this is Jim Francesconi. Apologies for the delay.
No problem. We're still waiting for some board members.
We have Kevin coming in.
Okay. I'm gonna sign in on my laptop here. I was having difficulties getting that started.
Okay,
Trish.
all right, thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Ed, anyone else coming in from IBI?
Steve's already here with us, Steve David.
Yeah, we have Steve.
Yeah.
Angie, anyone else from the board? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Mr. Leclerc,
I only count 5 board members. And a board member's dog.
I'm looking at the screen. We have
Six.
Al and you and Robert and Kevin and Trish and Amber. That makes,
Oh. I must be missing someone in a screen. Or that's off my screen.
Angie, are we, did you get hold of Mr. Leclerc?
no, he didn't answer.
Okay. All right, Paul, I think we do have
Okay.
a forum. I think we should probably.
Okay,
start.
I'll call the meeting to order and we'll stand now for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much and welcome to our special board meeting. We're going to jump right in. We have, as far as I know, no reports from either board members or from me. So we will jump right into reports from administration and turn it over to Mr. Brady.
Thanks, Paul, and I appreciate board members taking time out of their schedule tonight. We know this was kind of a last minute board meeting, but we did want to come together to make some decisions on the capital project, given the bid opening that we had last week. So we do have Ed Bernhauer and Steve Thazier from IBI, our architectural firm tonight, as well as Jim Francesconi and Pat Howerhand from CNS, our construction management firm. As I had reported, we opened bids last Tuesday for phase 3 of our project. And we had considerable interest in the project, and you see we have the bid tabs. We can show those to you. There was a number of firms that did bid on each of our major contracts, but we did not have enough in our budget for phase 3 to award those bids. And so we reconnoitered, and over the last week since that time, we've been working with CNS and IBI and our construction management team, our attorney, to put together some recommendations tonight to the board. And so that's what we're prepared to do, as well as talk about the bids. I'm going to turn this over to Ed. I think Ed's going to lead the discussion. And Ed, I can either make you co-host, or I'm prepared to put the documents up for you to review with the board.
Sure, Pat. If you could start with the analysis, the bid analysis, I think that'd be a good spot to kind of walk everyone through the initial numbers. And then what we'll take a look at tonight is our recommendation for the scope that we're proposing to go forward with for phase 3 to bring our numbers back in line with budget.
All right, so I had the bid tab, and this is the analysis that you're looking for, correct?
Yes, that document right there. Perfect. So I thought to start out this evening, one of the things that we would like to do is kind of take a look at where we are currently with our other phases to understand how much money we have left for our public bid of phase 3. Then we can look at where the bids came in, and then we'll kind of take a look at what we're thinking for potential reductions, and we'll jump right into our scope document to kind of take a deep dive into the detail on that. But as you know, the referendum for our capital improvements was $49,690,000. Our phase 1 and phase 2 numbers, as we've reported to the board, are shown there, just over 15 million for our phase 1, and phase 2, 16.8 currently. One of the parts of phase 2 is also our state contract procurements that primarily is IT systems. So Converge 1 is actual components that go into the data closets in the buildings. And then the day automation state contract is for data cabling, security, and then also the Informacast system that's being installed. And then the last piece, again, security cameras as a separate procurement purchase as well through state contracts. So those are the numbers there for that phase 2. Once again, as a reminder, our phase 2 is primarily the elementary schools with some work at the bus garage and then also at the central administration building. The other item that you'll see in this list is 5.3 million for our soft costs of our project. Now, what we refer to as soft costs are basically those costs that the district incurs directly for having construction. Included in there is our AE fees as well as the construction manager's fees. Also, the cost for bonding the project, and also for the financial advisors such as fiscal advisors and also bond counsel. And then again, any other costs that the district may incur as a result of having capital construction on their campus. Then we get into, for phase 3, we do have quotes for current work that would involve the junior high and the high school for, once again, those same items as far as security, as far as cabling and Informacast, and then the components that go into the network closets. And you'll see those numbers represented here. All that being totaled out leaves us from that referendum amount 8.9 million approximately to proceed forward with our phase 3 of our project. Now, as you see, our next section here shows our bidding. It is done by contract. You'll see all of the public contracts that we did bid in this last round. You have our estimates here, and then you have the base bid of where those base bids came in at. And then we have a series of deduct alternates that are explained in the bid tab forms that bring our number down, some deduct alternates that we were taking as part of this project. One of the things too to be aware of, we were aware of, because of the state of affairs nowadays with the pandemic and with material escalation that we're seeing, we were concerned with the project, and that's why we entered in so many deduct alternates. One of the things that we decided to do was make sure that we included almost 20% as far as alternates so that we'd be able to award. Typically, we want our estimates to be approximately within 10% of the bid, but we wanted to be safe in this particular case. And so we increased the number of deduct alternates that we could take in excess of 20%. The problem we had is the material escalation is so severe that we are seeing almost a 45% increase on bid day with those material items. So as you see in the column all the way over to the right, when our bids came in and we did take all the deduct alternates that were available to us that we had programmed into the project, we were still just over 3 million shy of our budget number, or being over budget by 3.146 and $39 in excess of that referendum amount. So based on that particular number, we felt that at this point in time, we would need to look at the project again and see what potential reductions that we could have in the current scope to bring that number back into line. And again, one of the things that we want to be careful about is, you know, it's always interesting saying unprecedented times, but truly we are seeing particular material escalation well above and beyond anything in recent past that we've seen in our public bidding. So we want to plan for reductions that would exceed that 3.1. We don't want to hit it exactly because we're not sure, you know, when we go back out to bid with this particular project, we want to be prepared and again, be safe. So you see a list of reductions here that we took a look at above and beyond the deducts that were included in the first bid. And these potential reductions include ceilings and lighting of the junior high school, pool renovations at the high school, auditorium renovations at the high school, excuse me, high school, reductions in theatrical lighting package for the auditorium stage replacement, high school kitchen work reduction, junior high and high school gym flooring refinishing, junior high VAT removal for classrooms, for particular classrooms, and then also boiler room area at the high school, electrical service upgrades, some toilet rooms at the high school, analog clocks, and wrestling room renovations. We did all of these, and we'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into the scope in just a second, but to take all of these together, we come up to about 3.9 million in reductions in the current scope that we feel we could progress forward with and have our rebid and be have enough comfortable room to be successful with the bid. In addition, the other thing that you'll see on the summary page is these items that are highlighted in yellow. Again, because we're not the contractors, we don't know exactly where the numbers may come in. If they come in aggressive and we can award some more work, these numbers will be included as alternates. And so at the request of the administrators that we've talked with, those are the particular items that they have the most interest in achieving and are the most concerned with. So those will still be bid to the contractors, but they'll be done as an alternate or priced separately so that the district has the flexibility to go forward with that particular piece of scope or eliminate it from the contractor's contract. So any questions kind of just in the overall picture of what we're looking at as the bid analysis?
I have a quick question, Ed. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can, Kevin.
So on the top portion of that diagram, you've got that subtracting out all the costs and state contract items, looks like close to $9 million available.
Yes, correct.
So the phase 3 estimates, and maybe I missed something somewhere, our pre-bid estimates was almost what, $5+ million higher than what we had available?
Correct. So in that number, Kevin, we built in almost $8 million worth of reductions in the deduct alternates.
Okay.
Because also too, to kind of read into your question, why go out at 15.8 and have deducts? Why not just reduce it off the get-go? And part of it was we were not getting the new material escalation costs in until late in the game. So we wanted to get a price on the work and see where the bids came in at, but yet still have those deduct alternate protections in. Unfortunately, the material escalation by far went past our security measures. One of the things we were seeing, like as a for instance, one of our electrical engineers did some research with some electrical contractors, and they found that since September, standard 12 gauge electrical wiring, which is used for a lot of different instances and a lot of different control wiring in different power scenarios, but standard 12 gauge power wiring, nothing special about it, in September was about $11 a linear foot. And as of our bid, was increased to $26 a linear foot, over 100% increase.
What was our original about to bid? Or can you walk us through the progressions of last summer, moving through design, and then what we were anticipated at with moving out to bid on this project?
I'm sorry, I missed that first part of that question, Kevin. Can you repeat that? I apologize.
Yeah, so originally this design, can you walk us back to the original design calendar with phase 3, whenever phase 3 design was started, and then start catching me up as to what we were projecting to go out to bid at throughout the fall and leading up until January?
Yes, so we submitted to state education departments in the I'm going to say in the spring. I don't have the exact date in front of me. And we were
June
hoping to get,
25th. It is June 25th, Ed.
or June 25th. Thank you. We submitted to state education department in June 25th, and we were hoping to get their review back and their approval back in order to bid this fall. We did get it back later in the fall. And so we went out to bid. We submitted bid documents for this phase of the bid a bit later than we originally were scheduling. Actually, we hit the streets on December 15th is when we actually started this bid process. And so that brought us to the bid opening, which occurred last week.
So if we had to extend the bid opening, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Well, so when did the, when that came out of SED? You went into SED on June 25th. When was it? When were we approved that the project was approved through the different parts of SED, architect, engineering, mechanical, et cetera?
I have to take a look. I believe it was around Thanksgiving, but I'm not sure. Pat, do you have that number in front of you by any chance?
I don't have that number, no.
Because if I recall correctly, I believe it was about 2.5 weeks that it took us to prepare from the SED approval to hit the streets.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on kind of the general approach here from anyone?
I have a question, Ed. This is Trish.
Yes.
Okay, so I came late to the game, and so I may be asking silly questions, but just bear with me if you can. So when I look at phase 1 and I look at phase 2, the costs are close. They're very similar. And we do know that most of the money went toward the elementary buildings, and those are 3 buildings. But I was wondering initially when you went out to bond and you were considering how you were going to use money, how you arrived at, like when I'm looking at the cost for the junior high and high school, which are also substantial. I mean, the high school footprint is pretty big. That why is it so skewed? Why is phase 3 so much less than phase 1 and 2?
Because part of it is, so phase 1, Trish, just so you know, that involves almost all buildings that the district has. And we were trying to do all of the abatement and all of the site work that we potentially could. So there is quite a bit of high school work in phase 1. There also is a bit of high school work in phase 2 as well, as far as site work and some athletics fields and things like that. So when you actually add up all of those numbers of what we achieved in the other phases and add that into also the high school at phase 4, phase 3, and then also the junior high as well, because there was a significant amount of site work done in phase one for the junior high. And so once you add those all up, you'll see that there actually is fairly good parity between each of the educational buildings that we have. One of the things that we were trying to do at the elementaries was get them off the STEAM system first and foremost. And that was actually consistent with what we presented when we went to bond for the project and when we went for the referendum vote. At that particular time, we were hoping to get some of the high school system in, but because, as you said, it's such a big footprint, we were nervous about doing the whole thing. At one point, we thought we could fit that in, and we decided to go forward with the design of it so that we actually could get contractor pricing on it. But as we see now, especially with the material escalation we've seen recently, that's just no longer possible.
So does that mean that the 3 elementary buildings are going to have the proposed heat exchanges on the roof, but the junior high and the high school will not have any of that?
So the 3 elementary buildings have all new hot water systems, complete new heating systems. The junior high already has a hot water heating system. So that system already is converted. That was never part of the project.
Okay.
The piece that's changing now is that at the high school, we will not have the conversion from the steam to the hot water. That will remain on the steam boilers.
And the boilers are going to remain in the subterranean.
Central administration building, correct.
Oh. That's, for me, that's really disconcerting. And here's the reason why. When COVID happened, the big thrust, as you know, was air quality and air circulation. And the fact that the largest faculty and student population is housed in the high school is, to me, is really a primary concern. I feel like that should be the #1 thing, because that's actually going to help everyone, students, faculty, administration, everyone who works in that building is going to be affected by that system or lack of that system. So when did that actually get taken out of the scope of the capital project?
So we actually had, that was in just this recent proposal when we saw how expensive the mechanical units are, the inflation on the mechanical units. So we actually had the full system design still in our phase 3 documents. So that's the number that you see represented there in the 7.4 million. That's how much the complete system for the high school would cost.
Okay.
For just the mechanical system.
So I can ask a question. I think this may be to help clarify where Trish is heading. If we can't get to the proposed mechanical improvements, is there a way we can understand the existing condition and expected rate of air exchanges with respect to code that exists in that space, so that we have an understanding of what we're agreeing to? Because I think that's what she's concerned about is.
Yes. Yep.
And
actually, that's a really good question, Kevin, too. One of the things that we are doing, and again, it's not the ideal scenario by any case, but based on the numbers that we see, one of the things that we can afford to do that we still have in our proposed rebid for phase 3 is to upgrade the control systems at the high school. What this will allow Greg Tessier to do is to monitor more closely and have it all on the new digital control energy management system, to monitor closely whether these units are functioning correctly or not, and to actually be able to control them and work with those controls on the units. Now, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe all of our current units are up to code with their air filtration. They are all of the MERV 8 filters. Is that correct?
Correct. We run MERV 9s, I believe, or
or MERV 9s. So they're above
9
what
and
the
88. They're
they're
their
actually
speed.
above what the code requires. So that is something, and actually for those of you who were at the facilities committee meeting recently, I apologize, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit here, but one of the things that we do want to make sure that we're careful of as well, there's a lot of media about and comments about MERV 13 filters, especially with respect to filtration for air, for aerosols in relation to COVID-19. But one of the things to remember is that while those are actually preferred for new systems, the mechanical units themselves need to be designed accordingly. So as a, for instance, where we have all MERV 13 filters at our elementary schools, the units have the appropriate motors to push the air so that we get those air changes that you mentioned, Kevin, so that you're still getting a number of air changes in the spaces. One of the things that we've seen that's problematic is when you go into an existing facility and then decide to change the filters to a MERV 13 without upgrading the units themselves. The potential problem you can have is that it actually slows down the air and actually you have less air changes and also creates problems with the unit itself as far as the motors. And so with the high school, one of the things that we're fortunate is that the existing system has been worked on by Greg's team. So it does have the MERV 9 filters. And then we know we're getting the correct air changes. With the new digital control system, that will also help Greg monitor that. And that's still in the phase 3 of the project.
So that's 15 cubic feet per second or per minute or per hour or whatever it is per person is what it is.
Actually,
cubic feet
well,
per second per person.
Actually, the way they do it, Kevin, with state education department is they require 6 to 8 air changes for the room volume in a constant volume system per hour.
And I know that just to maybe help, like I said, assuage Trish's concerns, a lot of the standards that were set for COVID outside of filtration, as far as air exchanges, New York State was one of the top 2 in the country as far as how much our existing design capabilities were. Meaning, the only thing you could do is maybe increase filtration. Yeah, everything I've looked at, from my understanding, was if it was up to the 15 CFM per person design standard, or however many air exchange it is, that we were far beyond compliant with where they were heading with any proposed changes for COVID outside of the filtration, the MERV 14 stuff.
Right. And as you said, Kevin, like, or as we were saying too, it's very, very important to look at, you know, what I talk about is the trifecta, is not only filtration, but air changes, and then also your fresh air intake ratio, because there's a lot of other places in the country where they don't have the requirement for the 50% fresh air, or based on temperature, it does vary a bit of how much fresh air you're pulling in. They're just recycling building air. You know, even if you pump it through filters, it doesn't matter if you're not getting that fresh air in. So fortunately, we do have fresh air coming into our building.
At the high school?
At the high school for the existing system.
In the basement?
Well,
it's actually
comes from the roof.
Yeah, it's pulled through air chases, Tris, from the roof.
Okay. Just my experience coming back from any long vacation, you can smell the mold in the air in the high school. It's, you know, I have a pretty good smeller, and that's what it smells like when I get in there after a vacation. So, you know, like I said, that was my biggest thing, was get faculty and kids good, clean air and a good filtration system. Like, that was high on my priority. So when you're talking about not doing what the 7.4 million was, you know, just please tell me what is going to be better about the air quality in the high school. And then I guess we can talk about the other stuff after.
Well, Ed, what does the 1.9 include in the mechanical that's still there?
So now that's for both buildings. That's the 1.9 that's left in the mechanical contract is for the junior high. Well, actually, all three buildings for the junior high, the central administration building, and for the high school. And really what we're doing there is, it involves, as I said, a big component of that is the control systems, as you know, Greg, that allow you to monitor our equipment that's there and know when it's functioning or not functioning. And, Trish, to kind of make a comment to the mold smell is the new controls, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, they do monitor the amount of fresh air that's coming in as well. And they actually have controls on the dampers, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So therein, is an improvement from the existing system as it is today. But another thing that we're doing is there's a number of rooms where we're bringing cooling or where there is cooling in the building that are those splitless duct systems that are inside that bring no air or no kind of circulation from the outside. We're replacing a lot of those splitless ducts split ducts with the rooftop units to bring cooling to like the main office area, some of the data closet areas, some of the other kind of smaller spaces that are within the high school. Then also at the central administration building, we do have an issue over at the IT center over at the main data distribution for the district. And we're providing cooling there, two new rooftop units there. That's part of that 1.9, part of that base bid that's remaining. In addition, over at the junior high school, currently in the project still is the complete kitchen renovation along with the servery renovation. So it's all new mechanical equipment for those spaces, including the cafeteria.
Ed, is the mechanical, the 7.4 million, is that but there are other costs in some of the other trades for this installation work, correct?
Correct. That's only for the mechanical contract itself. If you if you see those other numbers that are in that first column, I believe, I'd have to double check, but I believe those are other numbers associated with the mechanical system renovation for converting from steam to hot water for the high school. And then in addition, we have some other ceiling numbers that we would have to include in there as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you want to add then, I mean, this gives you the overview. Then we have the each of the buildings where they can see what's still in the project and what's been deleted.
Yes, yep, we can jump there. So for the transportation building, and actually, I think if everyone's good with it, I'll just go through each building and then we can ask questions later, Pat, if it's okay to jump back and forth. But transportation building, we are still addressing security cameras and doing the InformaCast tie-in with the public address system and clock system replacement. Items that we're holding off on are the air handling unit replacement for the office area of the bus garage, and then also replacing some of the gas-fired unit heaters, and then also waiting on converting the fire alarm system over to the district standard. And so if we jump over to the next building. For our central administration building, as we mentioned, we are doing the controls system, the new global control system, and then we are looking at the server room air conditioning. In addition, we are doing the tie-in to a FormaCast as the district-wide initiative for security and public messaging systems. And then items that we're waiting on that we've deleted are, once again, that mechanical to steam conversion for the high school. There's a number of items associated with that, as you see here. In the boiler room. And then also too, we're waiting on the generator connection One of the things that we found is this was for use of the generator that currently exists at the high school, and there is some question to the condition of the generator and its functionality. So we thought we would wait on this particular scope item. And also, again, it was lower on the administrator's priority. If we jump over to the next one, Pat. For the high school, included in the project is classroom door and borrowed light replacement. Again, this is taking out the old doors and storefronts that have the expansive glass. And then also the hardware and the doors themselves, replacing all of that with the newer, more secure and also security hardware that can be secured from the inside of the space. Also, we are doing ceiling replacement in the high school. We have a series of 1x1 hard ceilings and spline ceilings that also are asbestos containing. So we're getting rid of all of those in the high school and in the corridors. And then also we are replacing window shades in the classrooms. And then we are doing some work at the auditorium as base bid. And part of that is the catwalk system for the new theatrical lighting. And then the ceiling system modifications to put the new lighting systems in. And as I mentioned, there is abatement that we're doing in the building, including that 1x1 ceilings, the pipe fittings, and some pipe insulation. On the mechanical systems, as we mentioned before, we are doing the rooftop units. And then also too, we are looking at converting those control systems. Under electrical, we are doing the public address system and the tie-in to Informacast. We're actually putting an emergency water break notification system at the pool under base bid. We are looking at the, as I mentioned, the PA system with the Informacast tie-in to tie into the district-wide, the clock system replacement, and then we are doing the corridor lighting in those ceilings that we are replacing, and the corridor lighting will be LED lighting. We're doing the theatrical lighting replacement in the auditorium, along with the house lighting. We continue to move down. And then we are replacing the fire alarm system, adding cameras for security, and doing data cabling replacement. There are some sections in the crawl space of sanitary mains that need replacement. We are addressing those. And then there are some minor office renovations we're doing at the guidance office, and also some renovations where we're replacing some older deck ovens that are not functioning in the kitchen, and also replacing the exhaust hood with that. As part of the alternate structure for the project, and once again, these are items that we're getting specific separate pricing on so that we could potentially move forward if there is enough funding available, is the auditorium sound system. Also in the auditorium is a sidewall projection system. This is something for theatrical productions that would have screens and projectors on the sides of the stage. Also to the stage flooring will be an alternate for the replacement of that. And then we have a series of pool items that would be an alternate, repairing some minor cracking in the pool system, the deck and gutter replacement, as we've talked about, and then also some renovations to the finishes and aquatics equipment, such as the timing systems, touchpads, the ADA lift replacement for the pool. And that kind of sums up most of our pool renovations. We do have some toilet room improvements that will be included as an alternate for taking single occupant toilet rooms and renovating them for handicap accessibility and renovating the finishes. And then as we move on, we have our deleted items. We are deleting the scope from the wrestling area, the auditorium HVAC system. We're deleting that from the project. The coach's office renovations in the girls' locker room, that has been removed from the project. These next three items that you'll see is in a slightly different color that I highlighted. The team room, nurse's office, and kitchen renovations. These are actually driven by some of the high school teams. And I wanted to kind of highlight those a little bit separately because there have been, that was a request to remove that from the project because their spaces are moving in a different direction at this point. Then also too, we have the exterior door replacement, auditorium aisle lighting that we're removing from the project. The music suite renovation is actually creating a sound recording room, some renovations to a small space. The district digital marquee sign is just an LED display board that would be outside of the central administration building area. And then also, as we talked about, the main mechanical system renovations. And again, these are, as you see, all these kind of pink items relate to the main mechanical renovation of converting the high school from steam to hot water.
That was at a time we thought we were going to have more money for this phase, right? All right.
And then if we jump over to our junior high, included in the junior high scope, we do have our corridor ceiling replacement in the back corridor where we have the old 1x1 hard ceiling, spline ceiling. We do have asbestos abatement where we're getting rid of asbestos in the storefront systems that are in the back corridor, along with some pipe fittings and pipe insulation. We have throughout the building, we have our door hardware replacement and panel replacement to bring in the security hardware and make our interior fenestrations more safe. We have corridor finishes replacement in the back corridor. Again, we've talked about to brighten that area and bring better finishes and replace some of the glass that's in that area. We do have window shade replacement throughout the building. And then we do have a few display board swap outs where we're switching old chalkboards for new whiteboards. On the mechanical system end, we do have a number of renovations and upgrades based on the kitchen cafeteria area that we're completely gutting and redoing. We also have data closet air conditioning, where again, this is a swap out of an interior unit for a rooftop unit, and then also at the main office as well. And then once again, we're taking the entire junior high building and bring it over to the new control system for the district. As far as electrical replacements, we do have the clock system like in the other buildings and the public address system, also the fire system replacement, fire alarm system, and then corridor lighting that goes along with our ceiling replacements, some data cabling, and then security cameras for the building. On the plumbing side, we do have some toilet room improvements for some of our single-use toilet rooms to make them handicap accessible. And then we're also adding a gender-neutral toilet room to the back corridor where currently there are no toilet rooms anywhere in the area. And then again, as I mentioned, the complete kitchen and cafeteria reconfiguration. The lead items include exterior door replacement, also some of the ceiling replacement in the classroom spaces and other spaces, along with the lighting that goes along with those particular ceilings. We are waiting on some of the VAT flooring in the classrooms in the back hallway, and then the locker replacement in the corridor lockers. Also, along with finished materials, VCT flooring and carpeting, we're going to be holding off on. And then we are waiting on the dust collector relocation at the back of the side of the building, excuse me. And then the electric service renovations, the service upgrades we will be waiting on. Also, there was another additional gender neutral toilet room that we were going to add that we were going to put into a future project. Also, a special education room renovation. I did highlight this again in a different color yellow because this was removed by the building administrators because that program area has changed. It's not because of the state of the bids or the rebid, but because that particular program isn't needed. And then the exterior masonry we'll be holding off on, as well as refinishing the gym floor. And then the additional sidewalk at the front of the building that extends off of the bus loop. And I believe that's all of our scope items. Anything that we'd like to revisit or talk about in a little more detail?
I have a couple questions, if you could still hear me.
Yeah, I can, Kevin.
Okay. Under the transportation building, I was just curious of what, if anyone knows what the magnitude is of the public address system versus a fire alarm replacement. Is the public address and clock system there that needed, that it goes ahead of a fire alarm replacement?
So,
Or
yeah,
cost
actually
magnitude?
there in particular, and it's actually, which is unlike our other buildings, Kevin, part of the logic there is the fire alarm system at the bus garage is not that old. The problem is it's the different manufacturer from where the district is heading with all the elementary schools and the junior high and the high school. And so that particular replacement is to get it onto the same system as the rest of them. But the current system is actually not an extremely old system. And so that's why that was a good candidate to wait on. The public address tie-in is that InformaCast emergency messaging system. So it's not just a PA speaker, it's the tie-in to the district mass messaging system for security and safety issues.
Do you know what the magnitude of either one of those scope items is, just for comparative purposes? Like,
Yeah, let me see.
what's the schedule of value for that? Either one, for both of them?
Yep, let me take a quick look here. So the fire alarm system, and we had this actually split as a specific alternate. So we got pricing in from the contractors, and the prices from the contractors, Kevin, we had 3 bids. They ranged from $61,000 to $107,000 for the fire alarm system.
PA?
Now the PA, we don't have a separate number on, but we have our estimate that I could take a look at. And we had, our estimate for the public address was about $32,000.
With the security cameras too, Ed?
No, security cameras are separate. Those are, the security cameras were actually, I say it's part of our phase 3 because that's when they'll be installing them, but they were purchased under the phase 2 contract that Mike helped us set up with, I believe it was Day Automation. So that's just the public address system itself, the InformaCast tie-in system.
The other question that I had was for the junior high. There was a reference there for the dust collector that it was, the change was for code compliance.
Yes.
We don't have that. We're not required to do that, seeing as how we're in a project.
Nope. If we don't actually touch that area or touch the dust collector itself, we're not required to actually move it. And actually, that's something that Greg can verify. Oh, go ahead.
What's it out of compliance with? It's a code compliance. Is it because it doesn't have the separation from the
building?
Yeah, too close to the building.
Needs to be separation. Okay.
Right. And part of the problem that we have is that it's too close to a structural fin that's there that's actually considered a component of the building, even though it's not really like an occupied space. So, and we're at, I believe the separation is 6 feet and we need to be 10 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Ed, I have a question too.
Yes, go ahead.
The pool lift for ADA purposes in the high school.
Yes.
The current one that we have, if the new bid doesn't come in favorable, does the current one that we have still allow us to be in compliance with ADA on that piece of equipment?
Yes, the current one, Paul, is functional. I feel bad though for Greg's team. The reason we were replacing it is it's extremely cumbersome to use and to move. And so if there was a problem with the administrator that the administrators brought up of when you have your normal physical education department use of the pool and you need the ADA lift versus when the swim team comes in, and moving it and changing it out was really not very user friendly. And so that's why we had it as part of the project originally. It doesn't take you out of compliance because the old one actually is functional. It's just difficult to get in and out of its seat where you use it. But also too, Paul, just to clarify, that actually hasn't been necessarily eliminated from the project. We will be getting pricing on it. It's just done as a separate item.
Understood. Yeah.
Quick question, how important are the clock system? Why are we keeping it? What's the value of this?
So that's a good question, Robert. Forgive me, I should have mentioned, the clock system is automatically integrated with the PAs. The new PA speakers have the clocks built into them. So you're getting a 2-for-1 in that particular case. And also too, what happens is, as we've talked about before, the LED screen basically shows the clock time, converts to security messages in the event of either security or safety issues. So if there's a fire messages actually read out instead of the time display. And if it's a security issue, then a security message will display there as well. So that's kind of why we're actually doing this safety system. You're getting both of those for the same thing. Now, one of the things I will mention that we did eliminate from the project, Robert, and it kind of ties into that, is at one point, and actually it isn't even the current administration team at the high school, it was a previous administration team. They wanted included in the project clocks that had analog faces in addition to our PAs plus our digital clock, right? Our digital readout, because they wanted to be able to have the children see traditional time display with hands, minute and hour hands, basically an analog display versus the digital display. What we basically said in working with the district now and the current administration team is they said, if we need to save money, that is definitely one place where we can save money. And we could always do that at a later time.
Any other questions for Ed? Pat or Jim, anything from CNS?
No, other than this is it's an extremely volatile bidding environment right now. I think as anybody can attest to on the supply side of things, the escalation is only going to grow the further things go along, and it's unfortunate, but there's no end of the rainbow right now that we can see.
Actually, I will mention, I'll put Steve on the spot too. Pat, Steve, did I forget anything? For those of you who may not know, Steve Thaser is our Associate Director at IBI Binghamton. Just any other comments, Steve, to add, do you think?
The only thing I would just suggest, Ed, now that we've gone through the scope, let's kind of walk through how we're going from today moving forward.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So what we would like to do is, if the board agrees with our proposed scope now, one of the things that we can do is get your approval this evening and reject the current bids that we have in hand. Now, I should say the current publicly bid items. You will notice on your agenda as well, we can accept the 2 state contract procurements that is in front of you. and we can move forward with those particular contracts. But for the publicly bid items, we will be rejecting, or you will be rejecting those bids. Then the next step is we would begin taking the scope as I've outlined this evening, and our design team will actually change the bid documents so that it actually reflects the scope that we see. And then we'll take just a little over a week to do that. And then we would go right back out to bid and receive bids again for the phase 3 rebid.
And if I could interject, we did have conversations with the apparent low bidders to vet them as far as their bids went, as far as how their numbers came about. The overall resounding sentiment was that, you know, prices are growing. There's no doubt about that. They're still very interested in the project. The bidders that bid, a lot of the bidders are the same people that are on site. So there's a very great interest in the project. So I don't see that as any kind of a deterrent that, you know, we're going back out to rebid. I think the folks that are working here like working here. They want to continue to work here. We have a very good group of contractors, and I still see that as being a very favorable bid environment in that regard.
So you don't see them, very many of the potential bidders, you know, just kind of moving on with other work, given how quickly you're going to try to get these things back out to bid again?
This is a tough time of year, Paul. There's no doubt about that, because everybody's trying to get stuff lined up for the year. But you've got a good group of people here, and I think the numbers that were there were high, obviously, but the interest from the local guys and the guys that are already on site is definitely there. Like your Northern Mechanicals, your Betty and Cranes, your Norwood Plumbing, all the guys that are local contractors still have a very great interest in it, because one, it's local. All their guys live here in the area, so they don't want to have to travel beyond that. So they're kind of holding their calendars open for it. So we, you know, as Ed indicated before, the key to this is to get back out on the street as soon as possible and making it, you know, palatable as it was before. So I don't think we're going to lose anybody. I think we just have to get back out and get back out in a hurry.
Quick question, Ed, when you said state contracts, are we talking about the automation?
I'm sorry, when we're talking about state contracts, we're talking, what was the last part, Robert?
The automation system?
Automation system?
Informacast.
Day automation.
Oh, Informacast. Yes. Yeah.
Which is day automation.
That is correct. Yep. That's the day automation system.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions from the board on anything involving the contract and any of our team?
I would just like to say that if we're obviously had to scale back our project. The purpose of this whole project, one of the base things was to upgrade infrastructure, which includes mechanical. I hope that the board will look to do another project right after this one's done. We've already got all the drawings have been pre-engineered for all the upgrades for the high school and the junior high, whatever remaining work for mechanical there was. So and my suggestion is we put that on the priority for the next project.
Good point, Greg.
Actually, that's a really good point, Greg, too. Forgive me, I forgot to mention. So the items that we're deleting from this current phase are not disappearing. We're actually holding on to those, and those are actually being put into the BCS 5-year plan for future project planning. So it rolls right into our next project planning process. And a number of the items were selected also. Greg and I have been working on capital outlay projects and what would be good items that could be achieved through capital outlay projects. And so that was part of the criteria, looking at particular pieces that could be eliminated from this phase.
So Ed, in a scenario like that, if we bond another project after this one to do the things that we really need to have done, but we just, because of COVID and because of the price increase, we can't do. What's the timeline for that? to be able to get full state funding, reimbursement, what is that timeline? Can you tell us how early could we go
Yeah.
out to bid for
Yep.
the other parts
So-
that we really need?
Need a referendum, don't we?
You do need a referendum, that is correct. But one of the things to keep in mind, Trish, and this is an excellent question, what we'll do is we can come back to the board with more specifics once we've talked with your financial advisors, fiscal advisors. But the easy answer is to say 5 years, because every 5 years, the aid that you get from the state is refreshed, right? Like you have a maximum amount of aid in a 5-year period that you can get from the state. That refreshes every 5 years. So that's the easy answer. But one of the things I did want to mention is I know we are not utilizing all of the aid in this current cycle that we have available at the high school or at the junior high under the building side. So what is the exact amount that we have left? I don't know. That's part of where I have to talk with fiscal advisors to see what's available. If there's enough available, potentially you could go out before that 5-year window. But at the latest, the longest term that it would be a 5-year window.
And a 5-year window starting at what point in the process do they consider that we
Commission.
started?
Yep, commissioner's approval of our final submission to SED. So basically that would be that last Thanksgiving date.
November of
Yeah, just this last November.
2021.
Well, depending on the piece. So like there was a large amount for, well, phase 1 was even further back than that, right? So when we got SED approval for phase 1, that portion that we used for building aid, that's even further back. But this last November 2021, when we had a big portion for phase 2, it'd be 5 years from that for that portion of aid. So you can see it's kind of like a rolling clock, so it gets a little bit complex.
Right.
But yeah, it's, for lack of not having fiscal advisors with us this evening, it's a 5-year window.
Okay, but when you do meet with them, you will clarify what our date is. And,
Right.
And also you'll be looking at, did we expend everything that we could at the high school and the junior high? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, if there is additional state aid and funding there, even though, as Kevin said, we would have to go out for a referendum, we wouldn't have to go through the entire process all over again. We would just have to submit the scope of work to SED and have them approve first.
Well, you still you have to do a voter authorization still. So you would still need that referendum piece
Right.
done.
That would
But
be-
yeah, like one of the nice parts is we have so much designed already, you save on all the design time.
Okay.
We still have to repackage, but it's nowhere near as complex as the initial design.
And those are the soft costs, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
So what-
If I may interject, I want the folks to know, the board members to know, we had great local participation and we still anticipate that. There was, all the local guys want to work here, all their employees work here. So, we really envision that on a rebid being the same participation without a doubt. We're very much appreciative of all the local contractors, participating, and we still anticipate them being part of the next bid.
And we're going to reach out to them as soon as we can to let them know what's coming down so they can clear their books and get ready.
Thanks, guys. What we have then for recommended actions would be the approval, a resolution to approve the day automation proposal. That's the Informacast system we talked about with the PA the clocks, and approval of a resolution to reject the bids. Both of those would be for the capital project. They were vetted and prepared by our attorney, who works on many projects, including this one. He connected with IBI and the district to come up with these resolutions. The last three, I'd sent you some information in the board update. These are kind of timely. The board does not meet again until February 17th. The first one was the MOA for COVID days that we discussed at the last meeting. There was a mistake in the resolution. This MOA would be the correct one with sunsetting at the end of the year. And then we talked about at the last meeting was the MOA to create a 10-month motor equipment mechanic for the transportation building. So I did put down here an anticipated executive session if the board wants to go back in and discuss those last couple of items. And we do have a link if you want to do that.
So what would be the board's pleasure? We've already talked about some of these things, all of these things prior to. Do we want to go back to executive session? I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session if anyone would like to offer one. Hearing no motion, I guess we can move on to recommended actions. The first up under recommended actions is approval of a resolution accepting the day automation proposal for the emergency system.
Motion. Motion to approve.
Do I have is there a second? Could I get a raised hand for the motion, please?
I motion.
And a second? Any discussion? Yes, Ms. Murphy.
You're on mute. Pat, you're on mute.
You're muted, Pat.
Sorry. I have the line items written down over here. I have them copied. Which line item is that for the day automation in Formacast? The dollar total.
Let me pull that back up, Trish. And go to this.
Is that 1.266?
Ed, it would be we're looking.
1632095 with phase 3
Oh, I see
state
it.
contract day automation. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, what's the security data plan? For 505,000. Is that, it's part of the alternate? Just what is it? I just was curious.
I'm sorry, could you say, on mine, you broke up. Can you say that one more time, Kevin? The security data plan. Can you hear me? Let's see. Anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you, Kevin.
Okay. I was just curious, what is the security data plan? Is that insurance?
Where's that one, Kevin?
Alternate 2 under the day automation solution.
Oh, you're looking at the resolution. Okay, hold on. Let me pull that up.
Oh, yeah, I don't have the resolution.
Share my screen. This alternate ed security data plan.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. I didn't see this. I think, and we can confirm with Mike Allen and Ryan Cullen from our office on this, but I'm pretty sure the security data plan is it ties in the Informacast system to the plan numbers itself in each of the buildings. And because the base bid is for your cabling and for your, basically it's an integration of the public address, the new public address units themselves, the cabling of the public address units, and the tie-in to the cards in the data closets. The access control ties that into the electric strikes on the doors. And then the security data plan is like taking your entire plan
Cameras?
locations. I don't think it's cameras. I think it deals more with like the IP addresses, of the equipment, so that it's kind of like a point addressable fire alarm system, but only on the security end.
Not knowing anything about any of it, it seems expensive for the way you've explained it.
Well, you're asking an architect to explain an electrical item, Kevin. So I think if we could, we can look into that for you if you'd like more information.
Yeah, okay. I'm curious. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'd like to hear a little bit more about it, but we can move forward with
Yep.
the. Brent.
Are there other questions from the board? We have a motion and a second on the resolution to approve accepting the day automation proposal. All in favor? Kevin, you're not showing video.
Oh, hold on. I got phone issues. Can you hear me? I'm improving it.
Okay, thank you. Any
Sorry, I had
against?
some phone issues. I thought the video.
Abstentions? Motion carried. Next is the approval of a resolution rejecting all of the phase 3 bids.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? I would just say the folks from CNS and IBI have done a good job of explaining the situation to us and telling us the way things need to be to move things along. So I'll just say thanks to them for all of that good information. Any other comments or questions? All in favor of the motion? All against? And no abstentions. Motion carries. Next is the resolution to rescind the MOA that we passed last board meeting with the MFT for COVID-19 days. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion to rescind the MOA with the MFT for COVID-19 days? Any against? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next is the approval of an MOA with the MFT for COVID-19 days, a revised MOA. The motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? All against? And any abstentions? Motion carried. And lastly, on recommended actions, approval of an MOA with the MCSEA for a 10-month motor vehicle equipment mechanic. Do I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, do we have any new business from any board members tonight?
Paul, if I may steal just a moment, Kevin, I found in the backup, I can share my screen to show you the details on that data plan. It actually is part of the proposal from Day Automation that you should have in your board packet, but I can actually kind of, oops, I guess I can't share it. Pat, could you grant me
Yeah,
sharing?
I'm looking. Angie, can you, I don't see where I can make him a co-host.
Just shoot me an email. It's already,
Yeah.
it's water on the edge.
Yeah,
We can
sure. I
move
can shoot you an email. What I found is the actual technical piece that does what I was talking about, Kevin. It's 588 data drops at the high school and 298 data drops at the junior high to create this security, basically the security net that ties into the Informacast system.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any new business from the board?
Yeah, I had a question. So the last board meeting, you know, I know we're changing our protocols and whatnot with contact tracing and COVID, and it's a constantly evolving pandemic. Thank God it's evolving in the right direction finally. But is it? I know Pat mentioned the board policy for communicable disease, and what I was wondering is there any way to track when that occurs, when a student is sent for symptoms, and then after that, if the student was positive or not, to see how is it working? Is it necessary? I'm just curious because it's an easy way to track the data. Well, I think it's easy. It's easy for me because I just want to read it, but you know, I don't know how hard it is. That's why I wanted to ask Pat. I don't know, is that untenable? Is it too far in the weeds? I mean, we've been getting COVID data the entire process. This, you know.
Are you talking about if someone comes down with symptoms, informs us of those symptoms and later comes down with it?
Well, if the nurse has to send someone home due to symptoms, whether they were reported, whether voluntary, however it goes, how often are they positive? Meaning, how often is it confirmed as positive? I just was curious to look at the effectiveness of that in this situation, in this pandemic. If it was just a statistic, you know, if there was 588 kids this week that were sent home due to symptoms and 7 of them were positive.
I'm not sure if they have tracked that over time. I know they've kept spreadsheets.
Moving forward.
Moving forward.
Yeah. I know. I mean, it's gone now. If it's too difficult, it's too difficult. You know, I'm hoping we're evolving past it, but I just want to keep my eye on the prize of keeping kids in school.
You never know, it may come back. It might not totally be gone. We might have another wave in the fall. You never know.
I can ask the nurse and see if that's something that they have or can keep track of.
Okay.
Any other items for new business from the board? I would hazard a guess that there's been no communication from the public or press, but I feel like I should ask. Okay, thank you. I think that puts to bed all the business we needed to discuss this evening, so I'll call for a motion for adjournment.
Motion. Shadell, second.
Everybody's jumping on that one, huh? All in favor? I'm going to assume there's no one against.
Thanks everyone for coming out. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Have a
Thanks
good
lot.
night.
Have a
Bye.
good night.
Bye.